And welcome back to another episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. Today, I am joined and very excited to welcome Eric to the podcast, the head coach of NYPD CrossFit. How are you, good sir?
I am good. How are you, Lisa?
Good, thank you. Good. So the unique thing about NYPD CrossFit, I guess, and we don't often talk about it a lot in the space, is that it is indeed a not-for-profit. And I know that we talk about different, there's been talk over the years of different affiliates being not-for-profit, but I haven't seen too many of them to talk to them and learn about how that works and the work that you do. So I thought there was a great opportunity to bring you on the podcast and have a chat because, as you know, we do like to tell affiliate stories here, and the not for profit is also a very important aspect to doing the right things for the right people for the right reasons. So
Absolutely.
if you want to, maybe we can start. You can give us a little bit of your background into CrossFit, and then we can talk about how NYPD CrossFit came to be.
So I started CrossFit roughly around 2008. Been obviously a long time. It's been part of my life. It actually is a life that I live as opposed to just a workout regimen. And it's just, I think, the quintessential fitness program for first responders, preparing for the
Mhm.
unknown and the unknowable is, I think, absolutely perfect.
Yep. Um, I forgot to mention at the intro, actually, apart from being the head coach of NYPD CrossFit, very passionate about coach development, which we'll touch on. But I think you possibly, second only to Tia, probably have the world's biggest collection of nobles as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, coaches
Loving the
development
merch.
is something that I'm real passionate about. I've had a lot of mentors that have done outstanding things to put me on the path. I'm still growing as a coach. I'm currently in L2. I
Hmm.
just got approved to take my L3. So I'll be taking that hopefully within the next 60 to 90 days, roundabouts
Hmm.
to that
Nice.
comes. But, I've long history of fitness, late in 90s. I got certified by ISSSA as a certified fitness instructor, and then over the years, countless other certs. So got my L1 in 2018, and I was scrolling through Instagram, and then I came across NYPD CrossFit. So I
Hmm.
actually don't work for the NYPD. I work for a federal law enforcement agency. So I sent them a message and be like, "Hey, I really like a shirt, a patch, and also, by the way, I'm an L1. I don't know if you're looking for coaches." And they said, "Well, yeah, we are." And so I reached out, and then shortly thereafter, coached my first class for them, and
Wow.
then throughout the years, developed. And so actually, they were established not long before that message I sent. So established in 2018 by a group of members from the NYPD who felt the need to something to focus on, just not just fitness but overall health, to include mental nutrition, mindfulness, and to bring all of
Mhm.
the methodology to CrossFit.
Yep. Fantastic. And it's interesting that you mentioned there. So you started CrossFit back in 2008, but it was a good 10 years before you took the leap to do your level one. Most people would make that leap a little earlier, I guess, in the journey. What was it that kind of that you I guess held off that long?
I don't know, I just thought it was time. I was really getting into the history of it,
Hmm.
studying really into the methodology, not just doing the workout of the day. So then I felt that it was time, and then I had an interest in coaching.
Hmm. Yep. Um and that journey into coaching is often it's almost accidental, I guess. It kind of smacks you in the face at some point and goes, "Oh, you're this is kind of where I want to be and what I want to be doing."
Right.
Um, so NYPD CrossFit is not for profit. So how does that work for them? What does that mean, and what's their mission in regard to providing services, facilities for their members?
So it is an official NYPD sports team, though it is
Mhm.
not funded or ran by the NYPD itself. So that's
Yep.
how it's open to outsiders, not only to NYPD, but it's open to other law enforcement agencies that want to join. So originally we had a space where we would hold classes. During COVID, we lost our space because the space that we were in, all of the high speed units used to train there as well, and there were concerns
Mhm.
about outsiders coming in and training there, which could put them at undue exposure. So, we were not there. So now we
Mm.
operate just like a CrossFit Linchpin, a street parking, or one of
Mhm.
those other virtual affiliates where we have
Mm.
the Wi-Fi app. You can go into the app.
Mhm.
There's a number of different tracks that they could follow. They can send me virtually a video for feedback
Mhm.
on the movements, which I'll reply back. And then we have through a WhatsApp group, that's where we run primarily our nutrition challenges and other types of things where we discuss CrossFit and such. So, it's been a challenge because we're not funded by the NYPD. So we're basically just funded by our dues, which we don't charge a lot because we want to promote things. We are gracious enough to have a partnership with Jason Kalipa and the
Mhm.
NC Fit Collective, and they provide us with the programming. And
Right.
Wi-Fi is gracious enough and gives us a greatly reduced price to use their
Mhm.
app. And from there, we just try and not only just the workouts, but like I mentioned before, it's all about the life, because the life expectancy post retirement of a law enforcement officer is not that long. We are
Mm.
now seeing suicides outnumbering line of duty deaths. So the mental health aspect, as we know, the studies have shown the benefit of diet, exercise. We really harp on sleep. And if you can't get a lot of sleep, at least make sure the sleep that you are getting is
It's
quality
good.
sleep. So
Yep.
those are the types of things that we really trying to focus on. And it's also, using the theoretical hierarchy of a CrossFit athlete. So we modified, or I modified, and I put at the bottom. I don't say it's nutrition. I think it's sleep, and
Mm.
that's my own spin on it. So, I mean, you can have all of those other things there, but if you're only getting 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, and that sleep's not even the best, you're
Mm.
still going to see a greatly diminished results, and cortisol, the other types of things, is just going to be greatly
Mm.
affected.
And sleep is quite often overlooked as recovery tool, as weight loss, as you know, and just all around mental health. I know that you know I work kind of, odd hours, I guess, because most of my calls are in the States. And, Fit Philly have been really on point with me about, well, you need to be getting 8 hours. We need to see that you're getting 8 hours, that you're getting enough sleep, and not just being, as Tony likes to call me, a vampire, just not
Right.
needing sleep. But, if I go through a couple of, really busy days in a row and then I just haven't stuck to my routine, I notice, you're less resilient and less able to cope. And then taking that into the post responder or the first responder world, when you have that less resilience, whether you're active service or not, it does make everything a lot harder to deal with
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the
No,
day.
100%. So I think that's one of the key components, the key to the
Yeah,
castle, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. Well, it is. It's for everything. I mean, yourself when you're a little bit tired, it's harder to get your sentences and just do basic things, let alone you know, function highly as a human that you need to do and be on your best. So having this service, which is amazing and clearly very much needed for um, people in that space, and like you said, those statistics are quite, I guess, horrifying. What sort of um, impacts have you noticed on your community at NYPD CrossFit that maybe is going to or are definitely bucking against those trends for your members and giving them better outcomes in service, out of service, for their wellness?
Well, I think for one is accountability, us
Mhm.
checking in to say, hey, how are you? Haven't seen you in the chat group for a while. Or we have a number of different fitness events that we run throughout the year where we do meetups. We also do public events where we're
Mhm.
trying to bring CrossFit health and fitness to the communities that we serve. If you go on our Instagram, you'll see a number of those. And we're certainly due to have another one where a local affiliate or gym will host us. We'll invite members of the community. The Community Affairs Bureau will come in and we'll work out with the kids to
Mhm.
try and bridge the gaps, to
Yep.
show that the law enforcement officers are different than what you see every day. and to try and bring that with something that we're extremely passionate about. And then also, like I said, focusing on things that you're not getting out of a standard Globo gym or the standard gym that you have in your command or your
Mm.
precinct or your office, where it's just all right, put in the work, do a workout, but then you're going to go and eat whatever after.
Yeah.
So trying to give them the whole package for the whole life. We talk about box breathing, tactical breathing, those
Mhm.
types of things, mobility. Something we've worked with Kelly Starrett in
Mhm.
the past, and he's been a phenomenal supporter of us as well. So it's
Yeah,
just trying to give the whole package. While there's little bits and pieces you can get it from other areas, but we're
mm.
trying to provide everything in
The
one
yeah,
shop.
and it's really good that you seem to be able to give the full, like, in affiliate, for want of a better term, experience, completely virtually. So with, hey, we haven't seen, in a bricks and mortar affiliate, it's going to be, well, we haven't seen you in class, da da da. Whereas you guys are able to translate that to, hey, we haven't seen you in the group chat, and there are a lot of other, like you said, like linchpin and like street parking. But when you get to the number of members that those groups have, and I know like Pat Sherwood in particular does a really good job through linchpin, but when you get to those kind of numbers, it does make it harder to have that. Hey, I haven't seen your results for a little bit, so you've really done well at translating the bricks and mortar experience, for want of a better word, into a virtual space to keep the tribe together.
Yeah, and I got to say, through the linchpin community, doing the virtual coaching in there has been
Mm,
a great help. And obviously, that started with NYPD CrossFit doing it virtually, but being able to get a
mm,
video and then send it back all marked up, where you
mhm,
could see it with virtual cues and all that
mm.
stuff. It's actually it's become my specialty, so to speak.
Yeah, nice. And I think that may have been where I actually first we may have crossed paths first, was in Linchpin, in the group there, because I was following that one for a little while with Pat. But I think that's probably where we first. I was trying to think as we jumped on this morning. It's like where we first crossed paths, and I think it was through Linchpin that we kind of then wound up connecting through the Instagram. So we've chatted about various things online, numerous times, but I think it's a really powerful thing in particularly, when we talk about first responders, whether they be military, police, anything, that they have that tribe, but to be able to carry that over to something outside
Yeah,
the actual day-to-day operational, tactical stuff is quite powerful. And like you said, there are, generally poorer outcomes for people once they go post retirement, because, they don't have that tribe and they don't have that feeling of being seen and
right.
access to as many resources, I would not assume.
Yeah. No, and that's it, and obviously people that are retired members of the service can also join, can also
Mhm,
participate. We've got a network of gyms throughout the 5 boroughs, Long Island and Westchester, that often up their space to us. So
mhm.
it's been once a year, we have what's called the Fittest of the Finest, which is a
Yes.
CrossFit
Yep.
competition where we
Mhm,
crown the fittest men and women of the NYPD. So that we're looking at October to do
yep.
that, and so that's exciting for us. And
Mm,
we countless times we get a DM on IG from another law enforcement agency to ask us, like, how did we do it? How do we
mm,
function? How do we fund? How do we,
mm,
overcome some of the barriers? And there is a lot of barriers. There is the thought that CrossFit's going to get people dangerous,
mhm,
that type, that's something that we have to overcome, and it's a challenge, but
mhm.
we show that good coaching and scaling appropriately is what does it.
And that you can achieve that virtually, that you don't have to sit in front of somebody to coach them and to scale them and give them an effective dose of, CrossFit and keep them safe. Because clearly, I mean, your members have varying equipment needs, access to different facilities, so it's managing all of that, which does add that layer of complexity for sure when you're virtual rather than everybody in a room. It's like, right, you're going to do this, this, and this. So it just takes that next level of time and attention for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope to get our own space again. I mean, there
Yep.
are some areas,
I was
you
just
know.
about to ask, is that the
Yeah,
plan to
it is a
to
challenge to get it,
Yep.
you know. It's gotta be a obviously a free space or very low cost space that we could.
Mhm,
It'd be great if it was a shared space with maybe, we have a great partnership with FDNY CrossFit. So
mhm.
maybe a city space where we could, pool our resources together. We do a lot of events with them. Last
Mhm.
year, the CrossFit Open came to New York, and NYPD CrossFit, FDNY CrossFit went to head to head in one of the open
Yeah, I
workouts.
watched that. That was awesome. That was very cool.
Yeah, and then just recently, CrossFit Education and Training put on a special L1 for FDNY and NYPD
Mhm.
CrossFit, which
Wow.
was
Yep.
which was amazing, just to try and get as many people into the methodology to bring it back
Mm.
to their firehouses, their police departments, their law enforcement agencies.
And I did see, some clips of that, you making some opening remarks at the start of the seminar, which was, I thought what you had to say was, really important and on point to as to why that you guys are doing this rather than, just, "Hey, we're here to do a workout and throw down and, learn about this methodology." But, if anyone has a chance to jump onto your Instas or I think it's on the NYPD, I think even CrossFit Training
Yeah, I
may
think
have posted it.
it's on both. But yeah,
Yeah.
I discussed, how, each and every day the participants, because I gave some of the opening remarks, that every day, you know,
Yep.
it's to save lives. And now is
Yes.
an opportunity to save lives in another capacity through the
Yeah.
L1
Yeah.
methodology.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I really, um, like, out of personal interest, listened to that, but I thought it was really some powerful stuff, so, that was really well done. So I guess this is a good segue then into your second great passion, which is coach development, and it's interesting that you are, very passionate in that space given that you were kind of a late bloomer, I guess, into the coaching space.
Right.
But you'd have a lot of exposure to the methodology, but then also, you know, 99.9% of your stuff virtually since 2020 has been virtual, but still having that, it would be very easy, and I know a lot of coaches fell into the trap, go, "Oh, well, I'll just
Yeah.
take this lesson now, this is where it's at," like, it's too hard to go to a seminar, it's too hard to revalidate, it's too hard to do XYZ and get hours and things like this. So, you've continued to focus on that. And I know that you've done some work um, with Lynchpin and also you work with NYPD CrossFit. So talk to me a little bit about, your why behind um, wanting to develop other coaches as well as, I guess vicariously through that, you're developing yourself professionally as well.
No, absolutely. Because as you teach, you also learn. You learn the basics.
Mhm.
I will say that virtual coaching being my specialty, but the framework, or the, I guess, the pillars of coaching is still the same. It's the Q sandwich, where it's, hey, you're doing
Mhm.
this very well. Let's work on this. Good job. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And those are still the same. Goes with with that. And I guess the pandemic really put it to the forefront, because nobody was training with, you know, they were mostly ever training by themselves. All the gyms were
Mm.
closed. And so it was an opportunity to really fine tune those skills, where you could look at a video in real time. And then obviously you do get the opportunity to slow it down click by click
Mhm.
and then provide the feedback. But I always try and get to work on the coach's eye, to making sure I'm watching it in real time, and say, all
Mm.
right, well, what do we have here? Do we have the
Mm.
cross our spine? Are the heels off the ground? Are they on their toes? Do we need to tell them to push their knees out? So those
Mm.
types of things still, you try and get your mind in the right
Mm.
spot, so you could, see, which I think that's without a doubt you can teach, the points of performance of the foundational movements. You can learn how to run a class, give a great whiteboard brief and such. But the coach's eye is something that just needs to be developed and
Mm.
sharpened often, often, often. So I've taken the spot the floor class, I think 3 or 4 times over and
Mm.
over again, just to get, because I think that's one of the most challenging courses, because sometimes
Yeah.
you really can't see it. It's sort of like the judges
Yeah.
course.
Oh, I was just about to say the judges course is
The
another good
judges
example
course
of
where it's
like,
like there'd be a bunch of us to be like, I can't figure this out. What am I
mm,
missing here? And I guess
yeah.
it's,
And at
you know,
times I've it's funny, I've been doing it and I like, why do I keep getting this question wrong? And you realize that, oh, it's too hard of a judge actually. I would have given all of those no reps, which turns out they were reps, but you're looking for every little thing. I know when we and I was fortunate in my affiliate that during COVID we had like a 1 10-week bulk shutdown. We had a couple of smaller ones, but 10 weeks we were essentially operating. And I'd kind of been following stuff in the States. So I kind of knew what was coming and I was ready to go like virtually the next day after they said we're shut down. I said, cool. And had Zoom set up. We were good to go. But what I found in the Zoom is that it really intensified my coaching in that I really needed to focus deeply on each person individually because to make sure that they knew that I was seeing them and I could, that and engaging with them. So it was like, "Hey, good job, Eric. Let me see you," and going through people one on one rather than in a class. All right, everyone's going to do, we're going to do the dip drive. It was very much work through each person sequentially and give you that individual feedback, just so that you weren't just feeling like you're on a screen and nobody could see you. So I
yeah,
found that it was really improved my in-person coaching where I used to read a lot of the forums and the Facebook groups and people were bitching and moaning about how hard it was and decided not to do Zoom classes and it's just too hard and just post one work at a day and whatever, and we ran our full timetable for 10 weeks via Zoom. So it was just keep the members in routine, do the things. But I found it hugely beneficial for my in-person coaching.
yeah.
It
We
just
did the
sharpened that
virtual
coach's eye.
we did the virtual classes for a while via
Mm,
Zoom. The feedback was mixed.
yep.
It was a little bit hard to navigate. That's definitely not. We were just trying to get people moving,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I mean, it was a very challenging time. It worked well for us, but, yeah, a lot of places it just didn't gel with the fit, but I said to my coaches, "This is a great opportunity for you to, A, be uncomfortable trying something new, but B, really focus on people that you might just generally gloss over in class because they're the good mover and you could give a blanket, 'Good job, guys,' whereas on a Zoom class, you just can't do that. You do
Right.
'Good job, guys,' it's like, 'Hey, Eric, good job today. Hey, Betty. Hey, Tim. Hey,' you've really got to focus on each individual. So,
And
which
plus, you're
then
looking at one
carried over.
view, so you can see the front view. So
Yeah.
you can see people's knees. You can see
Yeah.
maybe an early pull in something from the front, but you're missing that side view.
I
You know,
I
unless
will I will say I was pretty annoying. I was like, "Can you just turn around to the side a little bit, and
yeah,
can you
yeah,
move backwards, and can we see," sometimes depending on their space and where they had their laptop camera or whatever set up, it was, "Okay, I'm gonna trade off looking at your knees because the extensions are the more important thing that I wanna see today," or
right,
I'll take it as a given you're on the ground for the burpee. I don't need to see that, but I want to focus on something else. So you made trade-offs, but I
yeah,
think in general, like I felt like it was really powerful for my own personal coaching and connecting with members, which during a time that a lot of people felt disconnected, I feel like that was something that we did really well. So um, it does sharpen. I hear what you're saying about sharpening that coach's eye. Like even now that I'm not coaching classes, I'm still watching a lot of things just to keep my eye in, I guess, and looking at movement all the time, and just assessing and just making sure that, like, oh yeah, like you said, doing that spot the floor course, which is fairly intense. Like the first time you go through it, you're like, have I ever coached before? Like, is this what I've done?
yeah.
So what's your goal that you have with developing other coaches? Is that helping coaches in develop as virtual coaches or help them develop on the floor coaching as well, or just coaching in general, or
Just
um
coaching in general. So, being the
yep.
head coach, we have some chat groups with the people that just took their L1s and stuff. So just providing them the basics on things,
Mhm.
that I've picked up over the years, and none of what I preach or whatever is my own really. Obviously, I experience it, but we all pick up, little nuggets from this coach, from that
Mhm.
coach, from things you see online. A lot of the videos from diving into a big fan of diving into the old L1 and L2 lectures that you can find on YouTube,
mm,
where you see like the original ones with Dave Castro and E.C. Sinkowski, which
mhm,
are just filled with like great stuff. And then CrossFit's done a good job, I think, of putting out little snippets of the different L1s and L2s where you can see the
mm,
small group for the push press or the push
yep,
jerk, and those which you go through there and you could see how just a circle, how you can cross cue so many people at once and just give them
mm,
a little cue here and there. So I think that's just, phenomenal. So, my goal is, especially with the NYPD CrossFit coaches, is that, they can be prepared for success with a little bit of things. While the L1 is definitely lays the foundation, it's the
mm,
little things that are just will make the experience so much better. And it's been said before that, you know, what'll happen in a class, they probably won't remember how quickly you can break down the air squat, the points of performance, or whatever it is, but they'll walk out of there remembering how you made them feel. And
mm,
I think that is the one of the biggest parts about it. Has you can maybe be a little bit lacking in some areas, but if you keep everyone safe, everyone has a good time,
mm,
they're moving, they get a good workout, they're going to remember that and come
mm,
back,
yep.
and how to speak to. And it's all really about people, you know.
Yeah, it truly is. I remember when I was running my coach development sessions in the affiliate, I'd and the goal was to prepare them to take a level 1, and it was about, you need to go and study this level 1 manual. Like, I'm not specifically gonna take you through zone, because you knowing how many grams of carb in an apple or how many blocks is not going to, you know, that's mathematical. What I need you to learn is how to see movement, correct movement, and you know, and I think Greg Glassman was the one who said at first, you can't teach someone, to give a shit. Like,
Right.
you literally
Yeah.
cannot. Like, you can help them with their technical skills. I can teach anyone to teach a squat, but I can't teach you to care about, if that's not in your nature, it's very hard for you to care about the underlying reasons when Eric's coming to class and says, "Oh, this is just my squat. I can't squat any deeper." Well, why? What are the reasons behind that? What's stopping you? What are your barriers? How do we work with that? To actually genuinely care about somebody versus, well, no, here's the thing. You need to be squatting to here and da da da. Like, I can teach you that technical stuff. If you fail your L1 because of nutrition, apples and oranges, cool. We can go back, we can revisit that, we can get that. I'm more concerned if you fail in your technical application, your technical skills, because that's the crux of it. And then we move to the, do you care about the people that you're moving, or are you just standing up to get, $50 an hour or whatever it is?
No, and I
And
think the big question to that is you have to know your why, because as it's
mm,
discussed on countless other like coaching and affiliate podcasts, that
mm,
there are many coaches that coach for the membership, do it as a
yes.
part-time thing.
Mhm.
Typically, they're the ones that just renew the L1 instead of leveling up each
Yep.
time. I'm not saying that's all the time, but I'm saying that's been discussed and countless others from affiliate
Mm,
owners, is that, you know, they like the membership, they like the
mm,
classes and stuff, as opposed to being the professional
coaches.
career coach.
Yep.
Or you can still
And
be a part-time professional. But
yep.
I think the challenge in the space is the professional career coach, and the why I think is so important.
And on this podcast, Tony, that this is the hill he's prepared to die on and put his flag into, the difference between training and coaching. And the word coach gets thrown around, every person and their dog would call themselves a coach. And f coaching is about affecting behavior change, which is something that, is our focus at Fitfiliate. But, there's nothing wrong with people just being a trainer and, going, "You know what? I
Right.
just wanna coach a couple of hours a week. I love it for that. I get to come and work out, and I get to high five, and I get to do this, and I'm okay with that." And we need that, because if we are truly going to get to, the 30 million CrossFitters and solve the world's most vexing problem, we need more coaches and trainers and we need more affiliates. So you do need both. Um, and that on the flip side of that, we are very passionate as well through our Million Dollar Coach podcast is about helping professional career coaches actually be able to make a professional career out of coaching, which is pay their bills, support their families, and not be just trading time for money. Because when we talk about being successful, if your needs are being met, for example, your bills are paid, you've got a roof over your head, you feel secure in what you're doing, you're able to perform at a much higher level as a professional rather than I just need anyone to sign up and I'll take $50 and I'm just going to do the thing,
Right.
and that will, when you continue to trade time for money, that's going to burn you out way quicker than, you know, having a fewer number of clients that invest more in you and that you can deliver a higher value of service to.
Yeah. And like I love that comparison between a trainer and a coach because I think of a
Mm,
trainer as someone you go there, you get trained, and then you leave. It's okay. I'll see you next. As
mm,
opposed to a coach, which I think is a more of a 360
mm.
support network view
Yep.
of all of the things in life, as opposed to just what you're doing inside the gym space.
Mm.
Something,
It's it's that behavioral stuff and looking for the deeper reasons why, like, why do you always skip the 5K run day? Like notoriously CrossFitters will, but it's, you, you coming to me and you're saying that you want these results and these are your goals, but recognizing when people's actions and intentions don't align with, well, you say you want this, but we work out for an hour and you give me your best on the floor and then you go and pick up, um in and out burger on the way home, like to use I guess an American
yeah,
reference. But we're only with them for 1 hour a day. But if you build that coaching relationship with somebody, you can impact so many more hours of their day because you notice when people come in. And I used to teach my coaches in the coach development is like, watch them in the warm up. You'll see is, oh, look, Eric looks a little flat today, or you know, hey, how's things today, Eric? Or maybe Eric just needs to come in and move today,
right.
and not
Yep.
we need to not just he knows the things he needs to do, but maybe today's not the day to just be
Yeah,
absolutely
maybe ignore the
relentless.
clock today, you know?
Yeah, just move for quality. Listen, I just want you to get through this workout. It's just going to be a 15-minute MRAP for you. Everyone else will be finished around that time. We just want you just to move and you know break it down and just move. Don't worry about the score. Don't worry about the load. But it's having that relation and knowing when you can ask the questions of people and being prepared to ask the question. Go, what's up? Like you haven't been here. Like you don't seem happy, or you always push back on certain things. Is having those deeper conversations and affecting that behavior change and talking about behaviors rather than just knees out, squat deeper, chest up. Oh, that's just Eric. That's just how he squats. Move on, next person. Like it's can be a hard skill to get, and you've got to want to, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. I know relationships I have with people I coach and who coach me is, you get into some of the hard stuff at times, but you need to help shine a light on where it needs to go rather than just glossing over the stuff and going, oh no, it's fine. Just that's just the way he is.
Yeah, it's about difficult conversations sometimes, how to
Mm,
have them, when to have them,
yeah.
you
But it's
know,
building that rapport and that trust and that relationship, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, and even I guess you might be able to shed some light on how you found it like doing virtual coach development and conveying the importance of that to the coaches that you or that come to you, wanting to be better. How do you frame that with them and show them that by, I guess, being a coach for them rather than just training them on the points of performance?
Well, also, especially those that are gonna be operating in, like, the virtual space, it is to not be the form and movement police. So a lot of
Mm,
times people will post their PRs so
Yeah.
to speak. And as
Oh,
we all know, when we see the PR videos, we're often cringing at some of
mm,
what we see. And so it's a proud moment for them, so
mm,
you want to be careful and tread lightly on some things
mm,
like that, as
mm.
opposed to someone actually asking for the feedback in the group, saying, hey, can someone provide this feedback? So I think
Yeah.
that's an important thing, because you don't want to rain on someone's parade when they do this, and you can see how, especially in the virtual world, how people can be pretty
Oh,
harsh, calling them out on no rep, squat
yeah,
deeper,
this
or those types of things. So I think that is the biggest thing, is
mm,
know when to provide the
yeah,
feedback, and when's appropriate and when not to. And then also maybe
yeah,
it's time to do like a sidebar type reach out. Be like, hey, great job. Awesome. Congrats on your PR.
mm.
Maybe we could work
Something
on.
to think about next time. You might get, a couple of kilos more or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, the blessing and the curse of the world we live in with social media, and that we can access things virtually, is you put it up for the crowdfunding model, I guess. So you almost have to be prepared when you put it up there. You're going to get stuff that you don't necessarily want, but you also don't want to have to filter it and go, oh, I got this PR, but I didn't quite do X Y Z. There was a meme that I saw circulating recently about some dude sitting on the couch eating corn chips. Me no repping open videos, that athletes release, because people are sitting there and their movement is possibly way shittier, and they're just like, yeah, this is, oh, Tia didn't get her pregnant belly all the way to the floor and stuff. Like, dude,
Right.
like, calm down. Like, it's it's okay. Like, the
Yeah.
world's not going to end, and they're very free to have that opinion. But you also, the blessing of it is that you have this ability to seek input. Like, there's no way that me sitting in Australia would ever get coached by Pat Sherwood if it wasn't for Linchpin and having the freedom to pop up a video, and or through Spiel's programming. I don't know, he
Right.
was very active in his groups. But there's no way that Chris Spiller was ever going to watch me do a front squat. But having that access, but then still having that space that it's a little bit moderated, where not everyone's just going to jump down and go, "Oh yeah, good squat," but da 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 da. You're like, "Oh, just let's go back. I'm not going to do that again."
Yeah. No, 100%. It's definitely a fine line,
Mm,
whereas you could be either have a positive impact, or it could turn something definitely positive into a negative, for sure.
yeah, yeah, and we want to try and the goal of coaching is to balance that out. Like, you can, like that, the cue sandwich, the feedback sandwich. You can give somebody some feedback, but it doesn't have to feel like a kick in the teeth. And that
Right.
they come in every day. I had some members, we were working on the same thing, and like, we kind of made a joke of it after a while. It's like, yep, we're working on your hip extension today, Craig, this is what we want you to do. Like, yep, that old chestnut. Like, I was never going to accept that he couldn't do it, but it wasn't about just, geez, I'm so sick of talking to you about this same thing. When are you ever going to get it? But it's kind of like how you can be relentless, but be a bit, softer and mindful, that you don't have to just, you know, make them feel like dirt every time because pretty soon people will stop coming in if they feel like just nitpicking everything every single time they come in the door.
Yeah, and you don't want, when you're walking the floor, for that
Mm.
athlete to cringe,
Yeah.
that they're going to always, maybe this is a day where you just give some positive feedback,
Mm. Yeah.
make them a little
And
more comfortable, come back to that a little bit later. We want to be relentless as coaches as well, but we also want to promote an environment where people feel comfortable.
mm,
They're trying. Some people are coming with past injuries, mobility issues, and stuff. And
mm,
sometimes it's extremely hard to get in some of these positions. So if that
mm,
position is not possible with that athlete, well, maybe we need to explore maybe some modifications,
mm,
that we need to do. Maybe pulling from the floor for this person, they cannot get the nice flat back like some of us because
mm,
of tight hamstrings or whatever it might be. You
mm,
know, maybe we need to raise the bar a little. Not that we want to do that first. We always want to try and correct,
mm.
but there comes to a point where this
Yeah.
athlete's 2, 3 times a week. they're not
And
going to put in that work.
and a 1 centimeter improvement is worth, you know, celebrating.
Right.
I remember I had a member in the gym. He was a plumber, so he spent a lot of time just like bent over digging, and he had so much muscle mass in his low back. If I let any other human lift the way that he lifted, incredibly dangerous.
Right.
But when you looked at his muscle mass, and he'd done it since he was, I don't know, 14, so he'd been moving that way, for 15, 16 years by the time he came to me. He developed that structure. Now, is that ideal? No, and if I'd hammered him every day, because he physically could not get into that true flat back, but you could see where he was improving. Like, he
Right.
was starting to get to more that neutral position. So every time it was like, great job, that's getting better. But he was lifting within, what was safe for him. If I had nailed him to the wall and said, no, no, you need a neutral lumbar spine, that actually would have been a more dangerous position for him, because
Right.
he's not strong in that position just because of how he's developed his mechanics and his musculature. So he'd still be relentless, but not, be a dick about it, and have some understanding about body mechanics and
Yeah.
anatomy. You can actually understand when something is okay, even though it might not be textbook. I mean, none of us are built the same. We all move slightly differently. There's not going to be an ideal, here's an optimal position, but we're not all necessarily going to get, into that.
No, we're all not going to look like James Hobart in all
No,
those, and Julie Fouché in the
no.
CrossFit videos. We've got all different levers. We're all shaped different. We've all got our own stuff. So it's to get them in the best, safest position,
Yeah,
for sound movement.
yeah. That's part of the art of coaching. So, what's your goal for yourself moving forward? I know you said that you've um, signed up for your L3, which is
Yeah.
exciting, and you're getting ready to take that. So, for you, where do you want to take your? Because you're still actively working in law enforcement,
Yep.
yes?
Yep. I've
Yep.
got 5 or so years to go.
Yep.
Something, it's funny though, is like endurance is one of my favorite things about coaching, getting people to improve their run times and stuff like that. So I want to get my L3. Then I would like to start diving into more of some endurance type courses to get some certifications for
Hmm.
that. And I enjoy running, even though I'm not the best runner. But it's something I'd like to learn more about. And it's also
Hmm.
something that I would like to maybe coach post career, you know, maybe
Yep.
maybe get on Chris Hinshaw's seminar staff someday. Hint, hint,
Yeah.
Chris. You know,
I'm not sure Chris views this, but if he does, he would be wise to take heed of that, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And endurance is something we do, overlook as CrossFitters and in the space, because, all the talk is about short, sharp, like Fran, get in, get your workout done, um, wipe yourself on the floor, get up and go again, versus, and you'll traditionally see it in the gyms, like 5K run day, very quiet day in the gym, 2K, even a 2K row is like, oh, can't possibly make it today. But, understanding that endurance stuff fuels you to be able to do better at those shorter efforts, because, it develops all those systems within your body that, well, if I can go for a long time, then a short time, it's building some
Yeah,
capacity in that as well.
and it's
Yeah.
also about like Chris Hinshaw, talks about knowing your gears
Yeah.
and talks
Mm.
about how you have a not that many people these days know about driving a manual or a stick shift car, but
Yeah.
you start out in third gear.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out well for your car, and the same goes for your body. You've got to start out in that first gear and go, and pacing
Mm.
is just such an important component. And when I give for my day job as a law enforcement supervisor, I give PT tests for candidates that are coming to come on, and part
Mm.
of the test is a mile-and-a-half run, and
Mm.
then I will see people do under a standard 400-meter lap. They'll
Yeah.
have a 142 lap, and I'm like, well, this person is going to crash and burn very quick. Lap 3 and 4, where if you would know, if you maybe do that first lap around 210,
Mm.
205, over time you would speed up, and then your
Yeah.
last fifth and sixth lap for that 1.5 mile would be your fastest.
Would
And
be
so it's
build
just,
up into it.
yeah,
It but it's kind of like reverse engineering how we, are wired as humans. I mean, we all know have those members at the gym where like, yep, won the workout on the first and second round, but by round 5, they're like down to doing singles and shuffling for their run or, whatever it is that they do and go, there was a guy who we trained and shout out to Cam, who I think does listen to the podcast, but, say, "Oh, done a Cam," and, even on the warm-up run, they just go out hot, and you're like, "Oh, that's not gonna be good for you."
yeah,
And it's like, you just gotta pace it a little bit, build up into it. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I got 1 speed, but one speed's not gonna serve you well." And and you're right, it's understanding. And as coaches, we understand all the metabolic pathways, but we don't need to convey that and say, "Hey, this workout's gonna hit your oxidative state and and
right,
glycogen, stores." But we know when we craft a workout what we're looking for the pacing, like this run should take this long. If you can't do it in this long, maybe shorten the distance or just run for this amount of time or whatever it is you need to do. But yeah, it's understanding your pacing, your gears, and the way that you want to approach, you know, not just go all out balls to the wall every single day,
yeah.
because that will crush your soul quicker than you won't be back beyond 2 or 3 weeks. You'll be cooked. You just can't do that.
And a perfect example of that as we approach Memorial Day here in the US
Ugh,
with Murph
Murph.
and that first mile where everyone's pumped. They got the
Yeah.
American flags, they've got the
Woohoo.
patriotic music, they've got their vests on with their patches, and there they go for this sprint. And
Mm,
I think it was 2015 or 16 at the games where
mm.
there was one athlete that thought there was 100 points for the
Oh,
like
just for the
first
run.
for the first mile in Murph. And I
Dude,
think it was Josh Bridges that said, you can't win Murph in the first mile, but you can
mm,
certainly lose the whole
mm.
thing
Yeah,
with that
absolutely.
first mile, so to speak.
Yeah, and they're you see the people that, particularly that like and enjoy running and good at it, they go out hot on the run and they come in and they've got their hands on the knees for the next 2 minutes before they, pick up the barbell again or, get into their pull-ups, their push-ups, their squats, if we're talking about Murph, and understanding that, you've got anywhere between half an hour to an hour's work ahead of you. Like, this first little run down the hill, you need to just, you know,
Yeah.
calm it down because your second run is certainly not gonna be as much fun.
Well, Bambi legs, as they say.
It was always a
Yeah.
highlight coaching the classes and watching them run out the door after this. Just gonna stand out here and watch you guys head out for your next run, and that might video that. That was always a bit of fun.
Yeah, and it's
But
especially with the athletes that are really not CrossFitters, that are runners that go
yeah.
and they think they can do their normal. And it's
Mm,
I think Glassman talks about how if you're too good in one area, you rather be average in across all
mm,
of the general
yeah.
physical skills as opposed to just being great in one and then substandard in one or more.
Which is, where we talk about the curse of, specialization.
Yeah.
Um, a CrossFit athlete is not going to run the best marathon time, but they could finish a marathon and go and do some back squats later that day potentially.
Yep.
Or vice, look at the challenge that they threw out that was on the internet a couple of years ago. It was popular, which was what was it, the heavy back squat, the sub 5 minute
Yes.
mile,
Yep.
um, or it was a deadlift or something. But it was trying to see who could
It
complete
was
all of that.
I think it was 500-pound deadlift and then a
Mm,
5-minute mile or something.
yeah, who could do that and then push that sort of pace and be able to do both those modalities. And people were like, "Oh, this is fine. I'm going to crush this." And it's like, mm-mm. After they did that deadlift, they're like, "Oh, I can't run a fast
Right.
mile or you know even get to that load." So we're not necessarily going to be the best at what we do, but we're going to be able to do a multitude of things. I know when I, for a while, competed in powerlifting, I was still CrossFitting. So I was competing against girls who were just powerlifting. So they were just lifting. Um, and my results were, quite comparable because I'd had all of this other CrossFit work as, virtually my accessory work and continued my conditioning. And, I didn't need to add in some of the other stuff they did. And it was a broader skill set, which I wasn't the greatest, but I was competitive. Whereas they could lift, but then they'd, run out of breath moving from the bench to the barbell kind of thing, where they were,
Yeah.
having a rest in between sets. So, um, there is a time when you might need to specialize if you want to work on a specific skill. For example, if you want to get your muscle up, you'll probably get one in class if you come to class consistently enough. But if you want to get it faster and sooner, then yeah, you're going to need to specialize a little bit. But then you have to
Right.
recognize that some other things will then drop off from that.
Yeah.
Your gymnastics heavy, your Olympic lift may drop off a little bit. So yeah, it's understanding all those, and that's the power of having a coach. Is you don't have to figure out all that science stuff. The coach will help you with your plan and help you temper some of that stuff, as well as not crush yourself on the first run for Murph.
Yeah. Without a
That's
doubt.
all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I've really appreciated learning a little bit more about NYPD CrossFit. As I said, I've followed you for, a good couple of years now. So I've kind of been across, some of your stuff and what you do, as well as the Noble collection. But I've got the Reebok collection. I'm still old school. But I think that, the work you guys do is incredibly important. And when I reached out to you about coming on the podcast, I said it's really important to, and I wasn't actually even aware that NYPD CrossFit was a not for profit till you mentioned that to me. So I think the stories of the not for profits, particularly some of the lower profile ones, definitely deserve to have your work recognised and celebrated, because I honestly believe that you guys are saving lives and giving people in law enforcement a better post-service outcome than, if they're just left to their own devices. So,
Yep.
Thank you for the work that you do and the work that NYPD CrossFit does, and keep crushing the coach development. And I can't wait to see your smiling face with your L3 certificate all over the socials at some point.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
All right. I appreciate you. Thanks, mate.
Take care.